one of the things that I did not realize early on in my entrepreneurial journey is how incredibly valuable and indispensable having clear core values and guiding principles is. And so if you don't have any, you're missing out in a big way. I'm going to share that with you today because I'm sure that it's going to make a massive impact for you and your team. So stay tuned and we'll get right into it. So a couple of years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine and they asked me, well, do you have, any guiding principles? And I said, I don't know what you mean. I don't think I do. I said, we have some core values, but, I don't have guiding principles. And they shared with me, they said, well, when you can externalize what you believe, your thought process and how you make decisions, it makes a massive difference on how you show up, how your team shows up, and it actually will offload decision making from you to your team, and you'll actually get even better decisions because you're not handling all the traffic and all the stress and all the work of making all those decisions. And I got the concept, but I didn't really understand, what that was going to look like. And so I'm really grateful because this friend of mine took some time and helped me kind of like talk out, what my core values meant, because we had those already kind of documented for the team, but we weren't really utilizing them as powerfully as we could. And then I also ended up writing up 15 guiding principles. And I wrote them up and I was like, okay, cool. Like, great exercise. This was fun. But how do I use these? And my friend who helped me kind of externalize my own principles, explained some basics, but that was really where they served and helped me and kind of left it there. But as I started to share them with the team and talk through the process, and then as I joined an operational, coaching program, and I started to kind of work through that program where I was working on offloading decision-making, delegating things that I needed to handle personally, it really became clear to me why it's really important to be able to document what the core values are and what your guiding principles are. And sometimes people interchange those. To be really honest and transparent, I don't know the difference between the label all the time, but I do know how it's different for our team. And so I can just talk you through that. And, when it comes to core values, those are just kind of like overarching. There's only three of them for us. And it's just something that kind of blankets over, here's generally who we are and what we're about, which is good because you need to have kind of that, here's the North Star, here's how we're going. But then the guiding principles and we have these all listed on our website, and I'm going to be talking through them this week. I'm going to go through one by one. For the next few weeks, actually, I'm going to talk through each of our core values and then our guiding principles. But the reason that it's important to have more specific things like under guiding principles, at least for us, is it helps us make decisions in the moment because we can review our 15 guiding principles and say, okay, well, what applies here and how should I act? And the great thing about it is that not only does it help my team know how to make good decisions and, what to do in a situation, but it actually really grounds me and helps me get back to my true character, who I want to be as a leader. And it helps me show up differently because I've externalized the things that I do believe that I do practice. And like any of us, I think we all have days where we don't want to follow what we know is best, or we're frustrated or a lot of challenges. And so it's easy to get off track. But with having these written out publicly on our website, talked about in our daily team huddles, it's the homepage for our team browser, for our Chrome profile. They are seen over and over and over. And with them being there, it holds me accountable. It holds my leaders to, account for it. It holds our whole team accountable to do the right thing. And when you go through a process like this, and like I said, I'm going to go through each one individually over the coming episodes, it allows you to really think about who you are, how you want to show up, and how you make your best decisions. And then it takes the load off of you because if you practice these, you preach them, you indoctrinate them, and you make them a centerpiece, or a pillar or foundational part of your culture and your organization, then people will not have to come to you with all the little decisions like, how should I handle this decision? Or what should I do here? What do you think is the best approach? Because you've already written them the guidelines. You've already given them the step-by-step to get to success by having something externalized. And that process really, really started to, be implemented. It started to really impact our team when we started through my friend Alex Charfin's simple operations, operational coaching program. It really helped there. And then earlier this year, when I read Ray Dalio's book, Principles, it just helped me understand even more, because Ray Dalio has like dozens or maybe a couple hundred principles that his company runs by, and they're all his personal beliefs and his personal principles. And it's allowed him to, build and scale one of the most successful, wealthiest companies in the world. And as he talked through it, it just really helped me understand at a deeper level, like, when we have principles in place, it's the guideline for how we operate. And if we go against something or we don't follow a principle, we have an external guidepost that we can say, hey, this is how we operate here. The great thing about that is that it makes it less personal, because if I'm, talking to my general manager, she can say to me, you know what, that doesn't really follow our guiding principles, what we're considering doing here. And she can challenge me, which she does, which is one of the things I love about working with her. It allows me to work with and coach a team member, or a leader to coach a team member, and say, I understand what happened here. You explain the situation, but do you think that was in line with our guiding principles? If so, great. What were you thinking of? If not, how can we improve the situation, or how can we come back in line with who we are as a company here? And so having something, again, externalized, written down, that's not personal and not just your opinion anymore, because it's the standards for your organization, is something that will allow you to really grow and succeed in the long run. And it's that resource, that guidepost, it's that tool that helps your team know what to do when, they can't get hold of you, or when you're busy, or when it's a small decision and they feel like, maybe I shouldn't bother, my manager, or, the owner of the company. So what should I do? And so having these is great. And I think a lot of people either do core values, or maybe even you've written out some principles, or like our guiding principles, or things like that. But if you don't make them a part of your everyday conversation, if you don't reference them all the time, if you don't live by them yourself, if you don't really continually bring them up, then they're just words on a page somewhere that nobody looks at. So that's why, if you do choose to go through this exercise, and as I kind of walk through each one with you over the coming episodes, I would encourage you to not only think through really what are your core values, what are the guiding principles that you want your company to run by, but then make sure you're very intentional about setting a schedule and a plan to bring up one or two in an all team meeting that you should be having consistently, at least once a week, but daily is what I recommend, because it's the most effective to move your team very quickly forward without creating overwhelm. Make sure it's part of that cadence, make sure it's part of that plan, so that they're brought up, they're talked about, and that everybody is consistently and constantly reminded that here's who we are and here's how we operate. It's a really simple tool that a lot of people overlook early on, and they assume, as I did, because I made this poor assumption too, they assume that, well, people have seen me make that decision, or they've seen me handle that type of situation, so they should know how to do it like I do. But that's a really poor assumption. It's a great way to set your team up for failure. Instead of that, make sure that you go through the exercise of doing this. You can go right to our site, businessmarketingengine.com, and right under our About Us section is our core values and guiding principles. You can read over ours as an example. You can read Ray Dalio's book. There's a ton of resources. If you need any input or ideas for that, just comment below and I'll help you. But once you have those created, don't forget the most important step after that is to make sure that it's an ongoing part of your conversation in your organization and your culture, because that's the only way you're going to keep showing them, here's how we think here, here's how we make decisions, and here are our standards and our principles. So I'm excited this week to share with you our core values. We'll do over our 3 core values over the coming 3 days. And then on Friday, we'll talk about our first guiding principle. We're going to walk through this together over the coming weeks on the show, so that it can help you implement something that will really help your business grow and move forward. So I appreciate you tuning in. If you need anything, reach out, and I will see you on the next episode.